How's it going, everyone? It's Josh here. Today we're going to go through what Brad and I carry for medical supplies when we're out in the woods. We'll usually either carry one big pouch or two small pouches like this, and we're going to actually have our father go through the medical supplies in these kits because he is currently an EMT and a retired paramedic and firefighter, so he'll have some more knowledge on what's in these kits. So let's get started.
Hey everyone, Craig here. You guys might have seen me on some of the other videos the boys have done. I was with them when they went on the Kentucky trip, so you definitely would have seen me there if you watched that video. Alright, today they asked me to talk to you guys a little bit about first aid kits. There's different things that you guys can do. Most people, when they think of first aid kits, they've seen these little like store-bought type ones here. Here's one that the guys put together on their own. If you notice, this one's marked with an X on here, or plus, same thing on the corner of this one here, kind of a universal sign of a first aid kit. Kind of a nice thing to have on your kit. That way, if somebody's going through your bag in an emergency trying to find something, they know, exactly what it is they're grabbing. So what I want to do today is talk a little bit about some of the different things that are inside of a first aid kit. Most of us think of bandages and trauma and things like that, which is true. First aid has to do with that, but it has to do with other things, such as anything from poison ivy to insect stings or bites to maybe heat or cold related emergencies. So I'm going to start out with this one here. This kit is actually just a store-bought kit. I put some of my own stuff in there, but I liked it because it's kind of a handy little kit. Some of you might want to use a specific kit almost for a dual purpose type of thing. That, a kit that you might be able to use for another something else when you're in the wilderness. Obviously anything that can be used for more than one use is pretty handy when you're trying to pack light. So this one here, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And I'll just show you guys some of the basic things in here. All right, I'm going to go through, kind of lay some of this stuff out, and then we can talk a little bit about it. One of the first things that we have in here is different types of trauma dressings or gauze. So gauze, it comes in different sizes. A lot of us are used to 4x4s. You might have heard somebody on the TV show say, hey, give me a 4x4, just a 4-inch by 4-inch gauze. They have different sizes there. They have 3x3s. You can even get down to 2x2s. It depends on what you actually want to carry. And then, of course, different size bandages and stuff like that. Usually what you're going to use mostly in your first aid kit is a lot of different band-aids, so it's good to have different sizes and that available. This one here is a little bit of a larger dressing, and we'll talk about later for maybe like abdominal wounds and things like that. So we have that in there. Inside this, we have gloves, just kind of gloves folded up in a little bit of a pouch. Gloves can obviously be a multi-purpose thing you can use for other tasks. But it's nice just to keep your, if you have to bandage somebody and your hands are dirty, you obviously don't want to be getting germs and stuff into their wound. A triangular bandage here. Some little Q-tips. That come in handy. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Just some very basic scissors. And we have roller gauze, or most people call this cling. This is what you're going to use to hold your gauze pads actually in place. A little bit of tape, just a real small roll of tape. In here, this kind of has different names. I guess kind of a space blanket's one of the ones that you hear people use. This can be used for many different things, and again, we'll talk about that. Inside here we have a little pill container, and that, if you're out in the wilderness and you get hurt, obviously having something to be able to control your pain levels is going to be a good idea. So in here are things like Advil, something to have something like or ibuprofen, I should say, Benadryl or something like that for if you're having allergies, or kind of a handy thing to have with you in those moments. Just a basic cigarette lighter here. You could use it even for sterilizing stuff. And then in this front little pouch, I have a bunch of different supplies in here. Most of these are small store-bought things, which come with a lot of these kits. That's kind of nice because they don't take up much room. So for instance here, just some antibiotic ointment. Just something small, you could use a little bit out of there and still be able to get a few more uses out of this. We have Stingies. It's kind of like an afterbite type of product, so if you get insect stings or something like that, kind of takes a little bit of the pain, gives you a little bit of relief. Obviously, you might notice on the table here with some different plants in that, which I think the guy's going to talk about. If you really have a good knowledge of medicinal plants, some of these things you might not need to bring because you realize, okay, I can make some type of antibiotic out of a plant or something to relieve stinging and that, but that's really more of their field than it is mine. So I'll let them kind of explain that. Antiseptic towelettes, some hydrocortisone cream, again for like itching or things like that. A little more antibiotic, alcohol to kind of clean things. I'm kind of a fan of having a variety of different types of bandages. So I have different size band-aids, whether it's for small ones or ones for like knuckles and that. Another one which some of you might have used in the past before are these little things called butterfly bandages, and we'll talk about these. I'll open these up in a minute and we can kind of look at it and show you guys. I think in maybe another video later on we're going to get a little bit more detail of how to actually do some of these things, whether it's bandaging or splinting and things like that. And the last thing in this kit is actually just like a little magnifying glass. Again, it could be a multi-purpose thing, but it's not a bad thing to have. You got a little sliver or something, you want to be able to get that out, which that's actually my last item here. Tweezers are a handy little thing to have. All right, you step on a thorn or something, you get something in there, you need to get that out before it gets infected in there. So having this in a magnifying glass are a good idea. One thing I don't have in this kit, which isn't a bad idea, is maybe even a small mirror, something that can't break. You might need to be able to, whether you have something on your face or something in your eye you're trying to get out, it's good to have something to be able to help you with that. All right, so that's the stuff in this kit here. I'm gonna set that kit off to the side for a minute. And this is one of the kits the guys carry here. These here are more basic first aid items that I just talked about. This one here is more of your heavy duty stuff. So here there's a few different items. Again, I'm just going to show them to you, but I think we'll end up doing a demonstration, possibly in a supplemental video here. So this item here is a tourniquet. It's just a store-bought type of tourniquet. Obviously, hopefully most of our cuts or things like that are going to be pretty minor, but if you get a bad bleed, you don't really have much time. If somebody is bleeding out and they hit an artery, you're going to notice that because it's going to be like a bright red, every time the heart beats and contracts, it's going to surge blood out, so you see a squirting of blood out. You see something like that, you need to act very, very fast or somebody's going to possibly bleed out. I know the boys did a video on knife safety, talked about the triangle of death. You know, if you slice into an artery in your leg, you have a very, very short amount of time before you lose enough blood that you can go into shock. And shock actually is what kills. It's the #1 cause of death for trauma victims. Your body stops, it loses its ability to perfuse the cells and get nutrients and oxygen to your cells. So having something like this that is all pre-set up is very handy. The triangular bandage you can use for a sling or you can use it for a tourniquet. But this takes a little bit more time on how to set that up, and we'll go over that and show you those things. There's some neat products on the market nowadays. A couple of these things people know this is Quick Clot. It's basically bandages that have a material impregnated in it, which will actually help with the coagulating of your blood. Our blood has something called platelets in it, which helps us stop bleeding. But if you have a large or maybe a deep cut, this stuff on here, you open it up, put it on there, and that'll actually help stop that bleeding a lot faster. So again, if you're out in a rural area, you're backpacking or somewhere out in the wilderness, you don't have any medical help nearby, something like this is going to be good because you're going to be able to stop the bleeding more effectively. So there's just a couple different size ones. Obviously, when you're camping, or especially if you're like these guys, you're going out in the bush, you want to limit how much weight you're carrying. So another thing on here is something. This is an emergency bandage. A lot of people know this is the Israeli bandage. I'm going to go ahead and open this thing up really quick and kind of give you guys a little bit of a view of what this thing is here. There's instructions on the side. I'd recommend that you read the instructions before you actually use this because in an emergency situation, you're going to have to move really, really quick with it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this open. It's all sealed up. We'll end up getting another one of these. And we'll do a demonstration maybe in another video, but I just kind of want to show you guys a little bit of what this is. I'm a big fan of these. This thing opens up. You notice it's almost like an ace wrap type of material on here. So, and you'll notice that it actually has an area here. That's where you're going to put over the wound, and then it's designed. You wrap around. You're going to go through this device here, pull back on itself, and it's used to give a lot of pressure. Direct pressure is one of the main things. When we maybe in another video when we talk about how to control bleeding, we'll talk about that direct pressure, elevating it, things like that. This is, you guys hear the local train going by here by the guy's shop. All right, everyone, we're back. The train is gone. Sorry about that. I think when the train went by, I was talking a little bit about just some of the basics of handling a trauma type situation. And again, most of us have learned, direct pressure right away, elevate, those type of things to stop bleeding. We'll actually show a little bit more about that in I think one of our supplemental videos here. Today, the guys just kind of asked me to talk a little bit about what's in the kit. So I just want to do a quick overview in here of some of the things that we have in here. So again, we have a tourniquet used for stopping arterial bleeding on the extremities. A triangular bandage can be used as a tourniquet. I'll show you this. It can also be used for making a sling or just a bunch of different uses on there. So some gloves, different size bandage gauze. And again, we'll show you that when we do our demonstration, but I like to have a little bit of a variety there. Of course, Band-Aids are always a helpful thing. Some type of roller gauze or cling in order to wrap and hold that direct pressure in place. Just some different types of bandages here. Just some basic meds. Again, things like some type of ibuprofen or some type of allergy medicine that you might have. Another type of medicine I didn't talk about, which a lot of people don't like to talk about, is some type of antidiarrheal. If you're out and maybe you don't do a good job of purifying your water, you end up with diarrhea. You're going to be miserable. You're going to dehydrate really quickly. It's just not a good situation. So if you have something that you can take to help kind of stop that, obviously it's there for a reason. It helps get bad stuff out of your body, but at a certain point you're going to need to maybe take something to help with that. Tweezers, our space blanket, again we'll talk about that. A specialty type of gauze, again for larger cuts, that's like Israeli bandages, what most people call that. Some of it are just little prepackaged things. Our alcohol wipes are things for sting, kind of stingies type things like that. Antibiotics, some type of antibacterials is a good thing to have in there. A pair of scissors, a little bit of tape, some kind of Q-tips and stuff for that. Again, little butterfly bandages. Like the guys have a kit that I got them for actually stitching up in the field if you get a deep cut. Most people aren't going to want to try to do that. The little butterfly bandages are good for closing cuts, and we'll demonstrate that. And again, maybe some type of some of this new material they have out there, some of these blood clotting sponges. It's just going to help you coagulate a lot quicker. So, and then some kind of case. Again, they mark theirs like this. It's a good idea. Make sure everybody that you're with knows exactly, like in what pocket in your backpack or whatever, that your first aid kit is, because in an emergency, time is so important. You need to get in there, and especially if there's a blood loss type of situation, you want to be able to stop that as absolutely quick as possible. Remember, when you're out there and you're in the bush somewhere, you don't have the type of medical EMS that you have in most rural or most urban areas, I should say. So there, you're going to have to, again, do immediate care, and then you're going to have to figure out how to maintain that person's, keep them stable while you're trying to transport them or go for help. So we'll get into more of that when we get into some of our supplemental videos, and we'll have a little bit of fun. We'll show you guys some of these different things. So that's all I got for you guys today, and hopefully we'll touch you guys again soon.